Hey, what is up, everybody?
Welcome, welcome.
How we doing today? Happy Tuesday. Let some of y'all get checked in real quick. We are having a birthday celebration for the birthday girl today. So we're having some extra fun. We got some cool stuff to go over. Can't wait to share. I see we got Trace in the house. Nice. Good to see you, bud.
Yeah.
We got a couple of new people I see, and we're going to get started.
Yes. If you are new, you are more than welcome to drop questions in the chat. Tell us where you where you're investing from. Thank you. It is not my 25th birthday, but in my head, that's kind of funny. You picked that number. That's the number I just feel sometimes, like most of the time, even though my body is like, girl, you are 42. But age is just a number. So I'm always excited to go one more year around the world, around the sun. And yeah, keep traveling around the world because that's what we've been up to right now. We are currently in Rochester, our hometown, New York, upstate. Guys, we are ready to get back to those palm trees. Can I just say that?
Yeah, it's been a awesome trip. We've been gone for almost a month. Get to travel up the whole East Coast. Had a lot of amazing stops, getting a lot of work done. We're working on 2 closings right now as we are traveling. So sometimes they have to, send the paperwork, FedEx it to a different property, right? If we're staying at an Airbnb, send it there instead. So still being productive, and that is the key. And this is why we're having a ton of fun. But today's a special day.
It is.
It is. It's a very special day. It's always got to be my top favorite day of the year, and that is your birthday.
You're so sweet. Uh-oh.
Not only do we celebrate all entire month, but this day we hit it extra good.
Yeah.
So today, Jen's got a special gift for all of y'all.
I was thinking about it, I'm like, oh, well, working on my birthday, but it doesn't feel like work when we get to hang out and chat about real estate. I'm with my best friend. The kids are actually with my sister and their new uncle. My sister just got married, so that was super exciting. And I thought, what if we came and just chatted a little bit about 42 reasons why I love creative financing and real estate investing. And I figure I'll probably start reading the list and then we'll probably get sidetracked. But if you have things you want to hop into the comments, but there's so many reasons why I love real estate and what it's afforded us to be able to do. And I just want to kind of go through some of them. So if questions pop up, drop them in the chat. Thank you so much for all of the birthday wishes. And yeah, let's get this party started. So no particular order. I didn't really organize them. I just kind of sat down and, throughout the last few days, just finalized. He doesn't even know my list yet, so I might throw him for a loop.
I wanted to be a surprise for me too.
Yes. All right. So the number one thing I love about real estate investing is the flexibility. So if you follow our journey, or you maybe heard us on Bigger Pockets podcast, that was a hard one to say. We have the flexibility to be able to homeschool our kids, to work together, to work from home, to work in an office. We're just able to work flexibly. So also what that means is you have to be flexible. There are some times where you're on the phone late at night or early morning, but there are times where you can, at 11:30, schedule your hair to get done because you work for yourself. So that flexibility is probably one of my favorite things about it, which rolls into number 2, which I call location freedom. So we lived in New York forever, but then we decided we could probably do this from anywhere. So we moved down to Florida for 1 month, which turned into 3, which turned into us actually moving down there. And we're able to come live from anywhere we go because of that freedom of being able to go anywhere around the country, the world. So location is so important to me to be able to enjoy and see the world because you just never know. Along with that time freedom, back when he had his full-time job, he got 2 weeks off. That was it. And it was almost more stress than anything to try to figure out where could we go on one of those 2 weeks, because we didn't have the extra time to take. He even had to threaten to quit his job when we went on our honeymoon because we wanted to take 2 weeks together. So not having to tell anybody, I need this time off, or to really stress about that. You can really work around the time that you need for you, your family, your health, because that's always really important to us too. So, oh, paparazzi over here. And then of course that rolls into number 4, which to us, and you are here for that reason too, I'm sure, it's the financial freedom. The ability to, be able to go away for a month and be able to do what you can and from anywhere, but also not have to, worry about things, setting your kids up for financial success, to not have to worry about where that next paycheck is coming from. If you can really grow your portfolio and you have passive income coming in, you have other things happening, there's so many ways to make money in real estate. And we're going to talk about some of those ways, like number 5, helping homeowners or helping renters become homeowners. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Again, rent to own is our specialty. So that is probably one of my favorite things. That's kind of how he really got me hook, line, and sinker here in real estate, was being able to help out renters becoming homeowners, because that's such a cool thing to say that we do, right? Like, you're actually helping somebody who didn't think they'd be able to own a house. So it's so cool to be able to help them in their journey along with that. And then alongside of that, we're able to help people sell their houses. So there's so many people who really need our help, and their situations vary. Some have already moved on and are trying to make 2 payments. Some people have inherited hoarder houses and they may be quite embarrassed. So there's a reason why off-market properties are very special to me. And it's because there are a lot of times people who, don't feel comfortable putting them out on the MLS. So I really love being able to help people. Sorry, somebody's messaging me. How about number 7? When we decided to build our company here and realized that Jen and Joe can only do so much, we were able to help people provide for their families by working with us. So I received 2 of the sweetest text messages today from my virtual assistants who wished me happy birthday. But it was so heartfelt that, like, we're truly changing lives. One of my VAs, virtual assistant Mary, is building a home over in the Philippines. And, she just thanks us every day for giving her the opportunity to work from home and, really make quite a bit of money over there. We pay $4 an hour, and to them, that's a lot of money. We also have team members in the US, and, they've been able to quit their jobs or, work full-time for themselves at this point, previous employees. So you just never know. If you take the chance on you and your business, like, the ripple effect is, like, you can't even see it when you're doing it until it's already in motion, or maybe you look back.
Well, and the one thing too, I want to add to that is, it's not just that, it's all of the attorneys who are, you're paying to
Yeah.
process the paperwork. It's contractors that you're hiring. When you do just one real estate deal, yeah, you buy one piece of property, but then when you look at outside of that, how many people that helps, right? Even when it comes down to, maybe you have to go to Home Depot or Lowe's or a hardware store to buy a few things for it. You're spending money in the community. So all of these things are a tremendous help. So just one real estate deal, if you actually sat there and wrote down every single one that got affected by that deal in a positive way, it's really, really neat.
Yes. Thank you for, chiming in. I think, like, you can't even really think about it until you, like, make an effort of all the people that have had their hands in a deal along the way to, like, help out, even people who you hire to fix a broken window or mow the grass, right?
Yep.
Number 8, I felt like this was important because I love the idea of, like, you have this sense of accomplishment. If you've ever closed a deal or gotten that really hard thing done in your life, like, there's that sense of, like, yes, we did it. And you high five, and, it just makes you, like, kind of prove to yourself that anything is possible. And, like, you really truly can do anything if you put your mind to it and you get around the right people. And I just feel like that's really important. And as adults, I don't think we celebrate that enough. We're always on to that next thing. So, really stop and count your wins and just recognize, like, what you did accomplish. And with that, number 9, I put always learning something new. There's always a new element to real estate. I think every deal teaches us something. Every person you encounter, I'm still learning how to best communicate. Joe's, really great having those communication skills. He's done a lot of work throughout the years, and not just sales, but just how to effectively communicate with people. So I feel like that's something I'm always working on. How about you?
I mean, I always want to get better at my craft.
Yeah.
Rather, it is me trying to figure out a way to make a deal happen, how to engineer something a little bit better. how to help some of the clients that we're working with in their personal business. So there's many different ways that, and I always learned this a long time ago, is when you stop working at being better is where you've already lost. I was in a sales business where, some of the top salesmen are like, oh, I don't need to get any better. I'm already the best. I'm like, well, that's the minute you're going to lose with that attitude. And there's always going to be these other folks who are even a little hungrier, who are going to do all of the things necessary to beat you. And exactly what happened, that. So I always will never be a master. I will always be a student of real estate investing for the rest of my life. So I hate when people try to say, Joe, you're a guru. Like, I am not. I am a student. I might be a little bit further ahead in the process than you are. And maybe I could help you, but I am never going to say that I'm a master, because I am always that humble student. So,
and every state is different, and every town, every way different areas run things. I mean, I remember when we first set up a deal in Pennsylvania, I was all confused about the boroughs, right? Is that what it was or not?
Or even the smoke test they do in the sewers. Just
yeah. So it's like you're always learning something new. And I feel like that's it's exciting. With that, number 10, no 2 days are ever the same, like ever. Like there's always something new, which is a blessing and a curse for me. I'm more type A, like I was a teacher. So like the bell rang, the kids came, they sat, we finished, day went on. But this, I mean, you never know what email is going to pop up, what issue arises. Did a fire happen at one of your properties? Did somebody,
trip and fall in your driveway and send you a lawsuit? Yes.
So things happen, but you just have to kind of know that that's part of the business. And again, you'll grow from that a lot.
So Mike Tyson always says that everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Okay.
Mike Tyson says that?
Absolutely. They have a plan until they get punched in the face. So the whole thing is, now when that happens, how do you react?
Right.
Do you sit there and hopefully take it on the chin and just keep fighting, right? You don't want to fall down to the mat and have that ref count to 10 and you're out. So when these unexpected things come,
because they will.
They do. You just have to be able to. What my old boss used to tell me is called bob and weave. I don't know why it's that sort of thing, but they just said, so you just deal with it and continue to move on. So when you're about to pull in work one morning and you get a call from the fire marshal that one of your properties is on fire.
And it's not every day, like it's that drastic, but there are little things, back and forth, that just, you're like, okay, like there's always something. But number 11, a selfish one. I get to work with my spouse. That is something that we really were so excited about. It used to be a pipe dream that, one day when he could walk away, one day when the kids were older. And for us, it was the COVID that happened that we just, burned the boats as far as no retreat. And we are doing this thing, and we sacrificed whatever we needed to make it all happen. And totally worth it, guys. So if it takes like a minute or two of like really, or I should say a couple months of uncomfortable, scary action to get you to what you want, like do it. Because then number 12 being, we have the ability to travel. So, being able to go take the kids to Boston, we were in the mountains, and now here at my sister's wedding, there was no rush to return. We can come and do our job anywhere. And then really hoping to take the kids to Europe in another year or so. That's one of our big goals. So the ability to travel and see the world again. The friendships we've made from other investors, and I would say clients of ours, sellers.
Some of you in this room.
Yeah.
Like the relationships that we've got to make from this business have been absolutely fantastic. And some of the most fascinating conversations that you can have, because with my old friends, I can only talk about, the same old things so many times. And that's great. But when you have that meeting of the minds with everybody who are like-minded investors and you're just collaborating, you just come up with so many amazing, fruitful things for everybody. And it's a great way to give back. It's a great way to just meet awesome people. And from this, we've met some of our closest friends, which has been awesome.
Yeah, they really do. And you find the like-minded people, because what happens too is you really work on yourself and you change and you become more than some of the older people in your life, older friendships or what have you. Sometimes they may fall apart a little bit. Not saying you have to not be friends with them, but they just might be in a different space than you. And so you'll find the people that that lift you up, that make you feel great, that, you're doing the right thing. And, we're always here to encourage that. It's really important to recognize that the old you will change into a new you, and that's okay. And that's a great thing. It is good to change, and we encourage that. Number 14 was a sense of ownership. So if you haven't owned your own home, like, maybe that's on your vision board, buying a house without the banks to be able to own it is huge. But to say that you own a couple properties, to be able to put people in there and have their homes, like that's amazing. And I really think that's really an awesome sense of accomplishment, but also like that specific sense of pride. 15 and 16, I put appreciation and depreciation, right? Because those are really important when we're looking at growing our assets, our portfolio, and all of that. Number 17, I kind of touched on this, but the no boss telling me what to do. I am a Leo, so I don't really like being told what to do. So I really like making my own schedule. It's sometimes tricky to hold yourself accountable to make sure that you are getting in every little thing that you need to on your schedule. But I also love that. I like being my own boss. He's his own boss, although sometimes I feel like I'm your boss because I have to like tell you what time everything is.
She is the boss. What are you talking about?
No, I mean, I'm not bossy.
Yeah, but you are the boss.
18, homeschooling our kids. It wasn't a dream of mine, but when it kind of fell into our lap, certainly love it. Ability to have, again, that time to do so. If that's ever something you want to chat about, I love talking about it. I was a public school English teacher. I've had almost 30 kids in a room, 40 minutes a day, rotating through. And then now I have 2 kids that in 2 hours, like we're all done with school, right? Like the math, the reading, the writing, but we're always learning. So my kids could tell you any sort of sea animal if you ever want to know. We're able to really focus on what interests them. And, we have really well-behaved kids because we're able to, again, pour that time into them and be able to teach them real world ways and not just sitting in a desk all day, which I get it. That's the way our system works. But if it feels wrong to you to have to send your kids to school, like know that there's always another option. I love it. The ability to donate money, that's definitely one of our favorite things to do, is adopt a child around the holidays or a couple kids and really make sure they have a really special Christmas. And I know we have some other things we're trying to work on, especially down in Bradenton, Florida. Love to get more active in that community and really be able to give back, because that's when you have a lot to share, then it's really amazing to be able to do that. And
that's another thing we do as a family. We always try
Yeah.
to find other, families or kids that need things during the holidays and make them have an amazing holiday. And Jen and I used to do that back when she was a teacher, and there'd always be some kids in one of her classes, and the counselor would reach out to the parents and say, we have a family who wants to donate and we want to know what your kids would like for Christmas. And we would make sure that they have the best Christmas ever.
Mhm.
And the great gift back to us was when she would see that very same student wearing, the clothes that we bought or things like that. And
Yeah.
It was really, really neat. So
You don't need a lot of money to do that, but obviously when you have a little more, you have more to give, right? So even if you don't have a ton, like it's such a great feeling to give to those children. You've got such a great idea that we really need to put into action as far as
we're huge giving and we love
Yeah.
helping. So that's the warm to your heart things that you just can't pay for. And helping other people, especially people who aren't a jammer, could really use the help, is just the best feeling you could get.
Absolutely.
In my opinion,
I think so.
That's my favorite.
I think this one is also one of your favorites, problem solving skills.
Cool.
Like you just love a good problem. I feel like there's always a solution.
Well, it's like kind of like playing a video game growing up. Like you're always trying to win the video game, solve the problem, right? Didn't matter what the game was. So to me, solving problems is just like a game for adults now too. We're just solving adult type situations, right?
Mhm.
And that's the fun of it. So if we could solve that problem, help people, which is great, also make a paycheck, which is pretty cool too. So if we could do all of these things just by turning it into fun in a game and trying to figure out how I can make this work and how can I make this a win, that's what's really cool. So I've always learned from a long time ago, if you could turn anything into a game and make it fun, you're usually going to be a lot more successful with it. So
yeah, I feel like problem was like a big scary thing before we really got into real estate. And now I realize it's just part of life. And it's just how can you navigate the waters that you're in and be able to provide some solutions. And if one's not working, how do you pivot? And just having that good attitude throughout has definitely been one of the biggest lessons I've learned too. And as long as you're relentless, you can get your deal done in Marco Island.
Right. Even the point is this, guys, and this is why we love creative finance, is because the more solutions you can offer and the more creative you get becoming at solving that problem, the more of those that you will get. So as my acquisition manager is telling me right now, we have a seller who's open to terms and says yes on his turnkey house. The only situation is he co-signed for his daughter's loan too. So he's like, my DTI is so high, it's causing me a problem right now of me building my next home. He's open to selling on terms. So what Lexi proposed is, then why don't we buy it with a lease purchase? Because if I buy it with a lease purchase, that lease agreement will help wipe out some of his DTI immediately, before we even have to close on it. So this is a solution. Now she says, hey, it sounds like he's open to that. Let's get in a call with him today.
Boom.
And finalize this deal. So it's just offering that other solution, right? And here it is. I'm like, well, if that doesn't work, then here's how we solve that problem. So it's a fun game. And once again, I love winning. You play to win the game. So
Oh, and with that, number 21, I had growing as a person. So you're just like learning new things about yourself. And again, how do I be better every day? I would say like try to be 1% better every day. I don't remember where I heard that, but it's really important to just know, like, you gave it your all, and hey, if you had a rough day, it's okay. Like, tomorrow's a brand new one. Dust yourself off, get back up again, and just go to be the best person you can be. The next few I kind of thought about was like, something that I didn't even think about when he bought the first house in 2008 at all, when we were just starting out in this whole crazy real estate adventure. But one thing I love is that we get to speak at events. We had the privilege of speaking at a couple events this past spring, and then even coming live every Tuesday. Like, we truly enjoy doing this, and we love giving back and sharing what we can and teaching others. Number 23, obviously, it's just in my blood. I love it. And he wanted to be a history teacher, but went a different direction. But even at his old job, always like teaching others how to become their best selves and to really, just encourage everyone. We love that. 24 was providing nice homes, being able to buy how we buy, guys. We buy beautiful homes that are not junkers. They don't need to be renovated. They don't need a lot of rehab. They sometimes need nothing at all. And so we're able to immediately provide a nice home to somebody else. Now, sometimes we have to put some love into them or what have you, but a lot of times these houses are like beautiful or ready to rock, and they fly right off the shelf right away. So that's really cool. I love being able to provide beautiful, nice homes. 25, being creative. I've always had a creative energy about me. And so I really took to this when I realized, like, not everything is black and white. And sometimes you have to think out of the box and get creative with it. So if you have that thinker brain, but also you're super creative, like, this is a great place for you to really learn how to do creative deals, to use that part of your brain and everything else. Better communication, like I talked about earlier. 27, this is a huge one I hear all the time, generational wealth. And I just want to like touch on that and kind of explain, like, what does that look like? There's different ways people provide generational wealth.
yeah, I actually learned from our coach, which changed my whole thinking on it. We always assume generational wealth, leave it all to the kids. Well, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be spending it all on her, is what I'm going to be doing. Okay. My kids, they're going to have to learn how to build it on their own, and we're going to teach them how to do it. But what I've noticed is, if you give somebody a whole bunch of money who's not used to handling a whole bunch of money, before you know it, they're going to be broke again. And so the true best gift is training and teaching and giving them the knowledge of how to get it on their own. So generation wealth means to me is my generation, which is right now with her. We've got great money to be able to do the things that I want to do to her. Our kids are going to enjoy some of the benefits of that too.
Mhm.
We will help always obviously get them into the right direction, but the majority of our money, I will be probably donating and spending it to her and things like that, and helping out people who could really need it and giving back in that way. Obviously our kids will get something. Our coach, who flies in a private jet around the Grand, and he will be here, guys, live in 2 weeks. So if you want to not miss one of the godfather of real estate, the guy who got me started, who we've gone to dinner with, fantastic guy. He's been doing it for over 40 years. He's got a wealth. 2 weeks he's going to be here. So don't
Mark
miss
your
that.
calendars. Yep.
But Ron the Grand, the way he's got it set up, and he's open about it, so I'm not like divulging any secrets, but he gives his kids $30,000 a year when he dies. They get it, I think it was on their birthday, and they have to pass a drug test in order to receive that money. And if they don't pass the drug test, they have, I think it's 90 days to then take a second one and be clean on it. And if the second one fails, they lose their entire inheritance.
Oh.
He's like, because if I gave somebody who had a drug problem $30,000, that's no different than giving them a loaded gun.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
So once I heard that, I was like, holy cow, I want to change everything. So once again, majority of our savings will be spent on her.
And
Donations. Yeah, but if I spend on you, I get it. So it's fine.
you.
And then once again, teaching our kids how to build it on their
But
own
it's
and
cool,
help them.
yeah, how to like have them work through the process of getting their own properties and teach them through the way, and like, that's your house. And then what you decide to do with it, put a renter, rent to own, and really walk them through it. But if you just hand somebody something, it usually doesn't mean a lot. You know, a gift is nice, but I mean, if you're handing out a couple houses, you want to make sure it's going into
The
the
right
right
hands.
hands. Right. 28, practicing different skill sets. So I feel like there's a lot of different hats that you wear, especially when you're starting out in this business. You are learning how to brand yourself, how to market, how to talk to sellers, how to close a deal, how to analyze and stay organized. So you really get to kind of figure out what you're really great at and then what you're not so good at. And so when you're not good at something, learn to delegate it or ask yourself, can I just ditch this altogether? Like, what am I even doing with my time? So I think it's really cool to watch all the different parts of, you know, what we use everyday life, how that it enables us to grow. Mental toughness, and then also becoming resilient. I feel like in most jobs, you can kind of like scoot by and, you know, you might have a cranky person or two, but when you're dealing with sellers with some situations or just people on the internet, because that's how we get a lot of our leads on Facebook, you just learn to just not care, and you just get super mentally tough when it comes to people making comments. And there was one that came in yesterday. I'm gonna share. I made a little reel on it, but yeah, Miserable Mary said that my roots are showing and I'm ugly, and she would never sell her house. This lady looks like she's like 95. But it was just kind of funny. Like, oh my gosh, this like little old lady yelling at me on my sponsored ad on Facebook. And it doesn't bother me at all. I'm like laughing about it, but I can see where in the very beginning, if you're new to this, someone calls you a scam, or what do you think you're doing trying to buy a house? Like that stuff can kind of like, you know, eat at you. That's why we're super big proponents of like reading really great personal development books and staying mentally tough, because that part is annoying. But then also like, guys, getting these deals down the road sometimes takes some resilience and some perseverance to make sure that they're closing. I think we've got 3 this week where I'm like, okay, like these need to close. And so just being super persistent on all of that. And then of course, getting into the creative side. I love that we don't have to go to a bank ever again to buy a house.
You know what? That was the freedom that I had to walk away from my job. Jen was a teacher. She walked away from her job first. My job was paying really good money, but we were a one income family.
Mm-hmm.
And the big thing was the income was fine, but if I walked away from my job, how would I ever qualify for another loan?
Right.
That was a big concern. And then when we realized how this creative finance worked and we could buy all the real estate we want without banks and without using credit and not a lot of cash.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we do, how do we actually get paid to buy these houses with this rent to own strategy? We figured out this is what changed everything. So we could use the same little bit of nest egg to keep buying and selling, no banks, no credit. And that's what really helped make our personal portfolio just jump right up. And that's what gave me the freedom to walk away from my W-2 job. Was I didn't need to get bank qualified. We just closed on a property that we got 1.5% financing on with only $5,000 down on a $300,000 property
Outside of Boston.
Right. So the point is, you know, if I was walking to Bank of America or Chase Bank today and say, I want 1.5% with only $5,000 down, which is like 1%, they would laugh me right out of that place. They'd be like, we need to call the police. This man's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So the fact that we are still able to get these deals, even in this type of a market with rates being so high, once we kind of grasp this, and our very first one was a 0% mortgage
Mm-hmm.
with only $100 down, this is what changed everything and gave us the freedom to be able to not worry about being tied to that W-2. And so when we did go full time, I was like, well, watch out. Now I have more time to do this. Back up. Here we go. So
yeah. And the next one was like none of our own credit. So and I just want to touch on this. There's a big difference between assuming a loan and buying on subject to or a wrap. And so we will never, ever, ever have to use our own credit the way we're buying because we are not assuming the loan.
Right. So assuming the mortgage, I hear a lot of folks getting into creative finance. They say, well, I assume the mortgage, right? No, we do not assume the mortgage. Assuming the mortgage means that there's a seller who has a property, they have a mortgage on it, and they could make that mortgage your mortgage, but you're going to have to get qualified. That bank will have to pull your credit. They're going to have to check your income, verify 2 years of employment, make sure you could run a mile under 5 minutes. You got to be able to do all these, whatever it is, not really the mile part, but you have to get bank qualified. And then that loan now goes onto your debt and onto your credit. And that's not why creative finance, that's not what it's about.
Right. We're not personally guaranteeing. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam. Yes, we are buying that property, but we're not assuming the mortgage. It's kind of similar to it without having to go through the assumption paperwork and through that whole process.
So they are not interchangeable. And I know a lot of people, and I don't think they mean to, but they use them interchangeably. And I'm trying to make use of the platform and make sure we're educating everyone that assuming and buying creative subject to or a wrap mortgage, seller financing, they are not the same.
They are separate.
Cool. 33, delegating tasks. I've gotten better. I'm still not the best, but I feel like it's easier when you start. So start with like the thing that you don't like to do, whether it's grocery shopping or, maybe you could outsource your lawn care or house cleaning. But when you can start delegating some things, it'll free up your time so you can focus on income producing tasks. And then also once you learn parts of this business, you can delegate that out and start growing your team that way. Obviously, like immediately we outsourced for a contractor. There's no way he was swinging a hammer, working 80 hours a week, and me with 2 little kids at home. So, look at what you can outsource right away and start delegating. And the more you can get good at delegating to good people, what was that quote Russ Whitney used? Hire
good people,
manage,
get out of their way, and manage through the KPIs.
Yes.
KPIs mean that you're tracking metrics of, what tasks they're supposed to do.
Key performance indicators. So, whatever you have somebody delegating, you want to make sure you have some sort of checklist for them, some sort of standard procedure, and then just check through, like, did they do what you asked them to do? Whether it's like cleaning your house or, Instacart order, did they get everything on there? Those little things like really move that needle forward a lot faster if you can get better at delegating, because you cannot do it all yourself. You really, truly can't. So you have to get good at delegating.
So once again, hire good people, get out of their way, manage through the KPIs.
Yep. And if they're not a great fit, no harm, no foul, we'll move on to the next person. The first person you hire might not work out, and that's okay. You always want to have a great fit. We only do business with people that we enjoy doing business with, and that goes across the board: sellers, buyers, employees, the whole nine. 34, I thought this was like one of the coolest things about how we buy properties is that the purchase price is not the most important thing. Do you guys know that?
No, not at all. And this is where we do make a lot of wins. Going back to the one thing on Jeannie's deal in Boston, she won $300,000 for this condo. All the cash offers are at $200,000 because they're paying cash for it. She wants $300,000. It's probably worth slightly more than that. And the way we paid $300,000 was because we bought it with only $5,000 down, and she financed the balance at 1.5% interest. And my pitch to Jeannie was, not only am I paying $100,000 more than everybody else was for this property, then when you add in the finance charges, I'm $150,000 more than everybody else. So in her situation, and this doesn't work in every situation, but in hers, this was her retirement, was this property. She lived in it and then was renting it for the last few years. She's like, when I retire, this is the money it's going to help, pay for everything. So her goal is to get the most out of this property as humanly possible. And I said, well, $200,000 is almost half of what I'm paying you at $350 when you include all the finance charges. And when she saw that, it was just great deal for her, great deal for us. And we're thrilled because we have a low payment, nice condo in a great area.
Absolutely. The next one I kind of touched on a little bit, but I don't know. We're always looking. We haven't found it yet, but I know that we're going to be able to buy a beautiful turnkey house when the time comes, when the price is right, when the terms are wonderful. And
For our primary residence.
our primary residence, yes, because we haven't quite figured out where exactly we want to live, but we know we're always looking. And just the fact, again, that we don't have to go to the banks, but we don't have to, pay cash and then fix it all up. Like I know that when we find the right house, it's going to be almost turnkey. I'm sure there's going to be some things we'll want to change, but.
And we've just helped one of our friends in Tampa who just bought his first home that he's living in the same way. We've helped other friends too find their primary residence through buying with creative financing. And we have found houses in Florida, but they're just not exactly where we want to be. So then we buy them and then we just keep them as one of our rental properties.
Mhm.
But until then, we're always looking. And then when we find the right house in the right neighborhood, got to be close to the beach because we had the talk. We're looking for more land or we're looking for the beach and we're still in that coin flip, but the beach is so just darn nice. So if we find that really
You can
nice
go
house,
to a mountain house anytime.
Right.
If you need to be by the beach.
especially in Florida. So either way, once we find that really nice house next to the beach, because I love it too, I'm sure that'll be the one we end up keeping.
Yeah,
For
but
sure.
it's like, again, it's kind of turning it into a game. Like we're not stressing about it. It'll happen when it's going to, but it's just cool to know that we don't have to, like I said, buy like a real rundown house or like worry about going to the banks and be like, oh, we're self-employed. How are we going to get qualified?
And then pay a 7.5% interest rate.
Yeah.
That's some super high
Well, I've
price.
had friends who are self-employed and it was like almost impossible. Like they made great money, but it was almost impossible for them to get these loans.
Well, the reason why is because they are self-employed, so they have a high income, but they usually have a lot of write-offs. So their actual Schedule C doesn't
Yeah.
show them making a lot. People make 800,000, but they have $750,000 in write-offs. So their true income is like 50 grand. And then that's
Yeah.
some of the things that run into being self-employed.
All right, we got some more real estate talk here. 36, I wrote down that I think it's really cool. I love that if buying doesn't work, you could, well, I guess you're still buying it, but you're buying on a lease option. So you kind of touched on it, the deal that we might be doing here. But when else could you use a lease option?
Yeah. So we've talked to sellers before where, they say, no, I don't want to, sell you my house with a sub-2 or with a wrap mortgage because the loan stays in my name. One of the first questions I ask, well, if I don't buy it, what do you plan on doing with the property? And anytime anybody ever says, well, I'm just going to probably rent it out. Whenever you ask that question and that's the answer they give you, they're basically telling you, I will lease option you my home.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, then why don't you rent it to me? And I'll even take it one step further is my rental. I'll be responsible for all the maintenance repairs, but I'll also have the option to buy it too. And we'll just buy it at the price that we're talking about. We'll figure out the price. And then at that point, I'll pay you rent every month until I could just get it cashed out later on. And so there's a great way to get into a lease option with a seller who's wanting to sell the property, but maybe subject to, they're a little bit worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have that conversation, or if I'm ever on looking at a property, I look it up on Zillow and I look up the previous sale history and I see they try to list it for rent, they try to sell it, they try to list it for rent, they try to sell it. If I see that back and forth a few times recently, almost every one of those, you should flag that, you should call them, you should stop what you're doing and get a hold of that seller. Because what do they need? They need debt relief.
Yeah.
They want to sell this property or they want to rent it either way. So those are great ways to offer a lease option for folks who are already open to it.
Yeah. So these are kind of like, we call it the playbook because there's so many different plays you can run with the deal. And I just wanted to kind of touch on some other, my other favorites. So 37, I had whole tail and then I had subtail.
Yep. So wholesale means that you found a good cash deal where you're able to buy it cash. And we did one of these. We've actually done a few of these, which is my favorite, is we just buy it with cash. And you really want to make sure your numbers are right. So we definitely consulted with, realtors and things like that first, but we'd buy it cash, just do a clean out, and then we would list it right away on the market. We wouldn't do the renovations. And a private client of ours not too long ago just did that. She bought a house, ended up negotiating for 92,000, did a clean out. Once they pulled out all the junk in the house, there's a ton of it in there. Pull up the old carpets, they were 30 years old. There was hardwood floors underneath them. So it actually showed really nice. So she was all in after the clean out and closing costs, about 100,000 out of pocket. She listed it on the MLS with a realtor for 149.9. So hopefully you pay 6% commission, you make 40,000, it's a good profit. Well, she called me and says, Joe, I have an offer right now at 165. Called me and says, you're never going to believe it. I have an offer at 190. Called me and says, Joe, I just took the offer at 205 cash. And she makes $92,000, just doing a wholesale. You buy it low, you clean it out, and then you retail it as is.
Now,
And
why would somebody want to sell that to her, like have her buy that house? Why didn't he just do that?
inherited the home, didn't want to deal with all of the stuff inside, didn't want to go through the process of having to pay contractors thousands of dollars to go over there and do it all, just wanted to get rid of it. And what you said this earlier, there are so many people, you'd be surprised, who really don't want to have their house listed. They don't want to have to do any of that stuff. The process seems daunting and overwhelming, and they don't even know where to get started. And if somebody could just hit the easy button, what I learned a long time ago is people will trade money for speed and convenience all of the time. All right. Just think of when you go to a restaurant and they valet park your car and you give the guy $10. Right. I could park my own car. I actually even rather park my own car just so I know there's no door dings and I'm not parking too close. But no, I'll give the guy $10 to go park my car because I could walk right into the restaurant. So you do things like that all of the time. And people selling their homes will too.
So that was wholesale where you're paying cash buying it, but what's a subtail?
Subtail, it was called Save the Tuggles. We bought a property with seller financing. And then all we did was we just retailed it. So on those deals are some of my favorite. We're actually doing one right now in Connecticut, guys, and we're doing it virtually. I've never seen the property, but we're buying it with seller financing. On this one, we're going to do some small renovations, and then we're going to rent it, or then we're going to retail it on the market with a realtor right away. So I'm talking probably about a 45-day turnaround from after closing, clean the stuff out. There's junk everywhere, clean a couple things in the bathroom, finish some of the work in there, and then put it on the market and sell it.
And what makes it sub is that we're making a couple of payments on their behalf.
Yeah. So $200,000 purchase price, but I'm not coming up with $200,000. I'm covering the closing costs and getting her caught up on some back payments. That's it. So you need a fraction of the money to flip homes that way. So this is one of my favorite ways to get into deals because your cash on cash return is through the moon on these. And if you do them right, structure them right, they're usually 100, 200% cash on cash return.
Nice. 39, I wanted to talk about rent to own because it is one of my favorites and how we make money 3 ways, because I think that it's a misunderstood exit strategy. And a lot of people, I don't want to do it because I'd lose a door. And okay, that could happen. They might buy it out. And that's kind of our goal. We would like our renters to become homeowners, like I mentioned earlier. But I really want to break down how easy it is to make your money back if you put a little money out on a deal, and also how you could make a little bit more. So you want to break that down?
Yeah. We just had one in Florida that we did. We bought a property that was completely renovated, turnkey. Gentleman recently bought it and then was going to move out of state. The house needed nothing. It needed a cleaning because it was him, the dogs. So we just had to get it cleaned. So we sent a cleaner over there, a few $100s to clean it. We spent $25 to put a lockbox on the door, made a few payments while we were looking for the right renter. But we bought it with $1,000 down, and closing costs, I think, were about $5,000 to $6,000 total. So we own a beautiful turnkey house in Florida for about $6,000, $7,000. So we recently put in a renter who's going to do rent to own, and they gave us $15,000 to move into that property. And this is one of our biggest reasons why we love rent to own, is because you get a big check up front. You put somebody in a home that they're going to own down the road is the ideal. So our clients that we work with treat the property much different than just a typical renter, right? They feel like it's theirs. They've already got some skin in the game. So we don't have any maintenance calls, any repairs, because they know they do that. So that monthly spread is yours truly. So you make more money there. So you make better cash flow. You got your big chunk of money up front. You make cash flow every month like a landlord, but without the responsibilities. And then down the road, once they do buy it, you get a big check like you fixed and flipped a house, only there's no realtor involved because you're selling directly to your renters. So it saves you a 6% commission. And generally, because they've held it for over a year, you don't have to pay the short-term capital gains like if you just did a fix and flip. So there's many reasons because of tax, no realtors, things like that, why we love it. And we just completed one of our case studies on this topic. A seller moved into one of our properties in 2000, a buyer.
I guess it was
a buyer moved into one of our properties in 2017. They gave us $32,000 to move in. They paid rent every month for the last 6 years and not one phone call for a maintenance call, not one phone call for nothing. And every single month for the last 6 years, we made good mailbox money every month.
This is in New York, which is not known as being landlord friendly, right? So even through COVID, payments being made.
And when somebody gives you $30,000, they don't want to lose that, right? So that's why we love it. It's the best insurance policy you're going to have. But they finally got ready to buy it. And they did recently. So once they did, yes, we did lose one of our doors. Not a big deal.
That's a cute house.
Because we just received a check for $77,000. Now, when we buy other properties with $1,000 down, $5,000 down and cover closing costs, with that money, we could buy a handful more properties. So if I lose one door and I'm making $400 a month on that door, but I could replace that with 4 more or 5 more, my cash flow goes up tremendously. And every one of those we buy, guess what? They're going to be rent to own. So all those people moving in are going to give us big down payments for moving in besides. So we get that cash. We raise a lot of cash by doing it that way, pick up our more monthly cash flow, accumulate more doors, have more depreciation to write off every year. And then once these folks get down the road, just big checks come. So
Yeah,
once
I
again,
just feel like it's so sexy to have multifamilies for whatever reason. And
it's sexy because you're getting tortured.
But
So
you have a
got
lot
to make
of
it look fun.
doors. You have, I guess, a lot of, but then you have property management fees, or you're fixing like a lot, money going out. And I don't know. I just feel like there should be a lot more people offering rent to own and doing it the correct way too. Because I know there's people that don't do it the right way. But I don't know. Every chance I get, I'm going to talk about rent to own because I just love it.
Yep.
The money, the helping people, the whole nine. So 41, oh, sorry, 40. 40 is the ability to teach our kids how to do it. I didn't know that they were going to learn firsthand, but Joe brought, was it both of them or just Brooke one day to the office?
I would start bringing Brookie to work.
Yeah.
And she's 10.
I get a text message with Brooke at a computer.
Yep. She would want to come to the office because she liked hanging out with some of the folks that we work with. So I'd bring her to the office, and she loved the fact that she could always go get lunch with dad and get out of the house. So she'd get her schoolwork done, but then we had an extra desk. So I would put her to work and she started doing follow-up. And because of her doing follow-up, she started getting a little bit of money from dad. Well, my 8-year-old son saw that and says, well, dad, I want this new stuffed animal. So I want to do follow-up too. So I bring him to the office, and he knows if 3 days of work, he gets a new, $10 stuffy that he puts on his YouTube channel, which he loves to make YouTube videos, and he crushes us on his views.
Yeah, he's killing.
And he's 8. So either way, it helps out him and his YouTube channel, and he helps out us just by going into our computer and messaging people who want to sell their homes that we chatted with months ago. And all he does is, or either one is, they just go in there and they type the seller's first name with a question mark and hit send.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
If you have people in your pipeline you haven't spoken to, that's a great tip I wanted to share, because even our 8 and 10-year-old were doing it. It's just their first name question mark. I even used it today on a client, somebody that we were working with, and he didn't respond to my message yesterday. So Michael question mark, and he responded. So you just never know. Sometimes just the first name question mark. I stole that from Uncle G, Grant Cardone. I had bought Elena's book a couple years ago, and I got this phone call from Miami, and I didn't answer it. And I got a text saying Jenn question mark. It was spelled Jenn, like I spell it. I was totally freaked out. I'm like, who is this? And it was Grant Cardone's business office. I bought her book, right, for $20. So now they want to sell me on all the other stuff. And I was like, I like that. It worked on me. It's probably going to work on other people. And it does. So
that's one of the best things, guys. If you're talking to somebody and they ghost you, text them their first name with a question mark.
That's it.
Yep. So if I call any one of you and we've never spoke before, especially, I do not leave you a voicemail. I will call you a second time right away. And if you don't answer, I will not leave you a voicemail. I will hang up. Then I will text you your first name with a question mark. And if you think of what it's like being on the other side of the phone, somebody just from a random number called you twice, you sidebarred them and didn't answer, and now they text you their first name with a question mark. What are you all going to say? Who is this? And the minute you do that, you're back to talking. We got you. So
if somebody's ghosting, that's the number one thing to do. The first name question mark. 41. I've always wanted to move to Florida. So selfishly, again, so excited that because of creative financing and real estate, I was able to move one of the most beautiful states in our country, and literally live 10 minutes from one of the most gorgeous beaches, and, just be able to get out of the cold gray New York, but also, again, I could travel back if I want, obviously, but be able to move if that's a dream of yours, with the right progress and work and effort, it can happen. And then 42, there's always room to grow. And I'm really excited to see where this year takes us. And I don't know. I feel like the sky isn't even the limit. Like the limit, there is no limit. You can, buy as much as you want with creative financing. You can help as many people as humanly possible. We are of abundance mindset. There's always enough to go around. The pie is shareable, guys. Even if somebody in your town is a real estate investor, that's great. Befriend them and see if you could collaborate and work together, because you can't do everything alone. And there are more people out there that need our help than us who are actually trying to help. So.
And that's my favorite one. And it's really just continue to grow, guys. Because if we didn't continue this, who knows where we'd be right now. So we just took those small steps every single day, even when we didn't feel like it, because we don't worry about what our feelings are. We just know that this is the process that we're going to be on. If you have naysayers in your life, I had some of those when I had my old day job. So many of my coworkers would say, Joe, you make so much money already. Why are you doing real estate on the side? Why don't you just go golfing and enjoy? And I'm like, well, I enjoy real estate and that's why I do it on the side. But also too, I don't feel comfortable putting all my eggs in one basket. What happens if the car business isn't here anymore, or I want to retire? And then nobody could predicted COVID.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming, right? So if that's the case, the fact that we already had these properties, we're already cash flowing, we're already buying real estate without banks and credit, because we were putting in that work, that's what made all of it a lot easier. And I talked to some of my old friends who are still in the car business, still doing the same job, still at the same dealership, still drinking the same coffee from the same coffee machine, still being miserable, talking about sports and just what time could I leave work today, looking at the clock, counting down the minutes. And we've all been there. Mm-hmm. Too many nights I've been there for 20 years of me doing that. So why I had that hustle on the side, and my theory was I want to make so much money on the side, it starts interfering and I can't afford to come to work anymore. Right? I want to make so much money on the side hustle that I cannot afford to go to work anymore. And that was my dream. But I thought, wow, this company's paying me all this money. How can I ever do that? Mm-hmm. And when we were burning properties, making $200, $300 per door, but then, the furnace would go and we had to replace that. There's the whole income for the year gone because of one hot water tank and things like that. I knew the only way we were going to be able to move to Florida and retire, we'd have to be 90 years old. Right. Yep. And this would never happen anytime sooner than that, until we started looking at our mindset. We started really diving in, being a student. We started doing all the steps and then taking the necessary steps, even when we got made fun of, even when we missed all of the things. I remember being in a basement with her one time in New York, all this crappy house that we just bought. And it was the springtime, and in New York, you've got 3 months. That's it. Good weather. Other than that, it's terrible the rest of the year here. And it was one of the weekends where everybody's out on the boat. And I said, well, this is my one day off. So this is the only day off I can do this. So unfortunately, I'm here. And this is where I knew she was special, guys, because she wasn't my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. She could have just gotten her car and gone to the lake with her family. But no, here she was in some nasty house doing some stuff with me on my day off, which was also her day off, because I don't even know if you even knew what was going to happen at that point, but she was just an amazing person.
You're just crazy.
That's the truth. But this was the point, guys. So we made a lot of these sacrifices, but because we took all of these necessary steps now, and I grew up poor. I never went to college. I did not have that silver spoon in my mouth. I moved out of my parents' house at 18 years old. I lived in the woods for like 3 nights because I had nowhere to go, slept in my car, all of the things, guys. And I'm not trying to throw a sympathy party, but I was not born with on third base.
Gee, you're so lucky.
And walked home. So when people say it must be nice, well, consider when I used to have to sleep in my car and I was homeless, living in hotels, traveling the country, my old job. It is nice to have a gorgeous house in Florida with an amazing view and a pool now, right? It is nice because I had 3 shirts to wear 5 days a week when I was at school. And one was my Lamborghini t-shirt that I used to get picked on all the time. but I really like Lamborghinis and I didn't have many other shirts to pick from. Right. So that one got worn a lot. And
But
maybe
you turned it into motivation and fuel. And I think that's what's really inspiring. Instead of like, oh, woe is me playing victim, you turned it around and you're like, this is what I don't want. And you like,
so if any of you see the squeaky clean Joe now, you got to understand, guys, it wasn't always this good. I promise you, it wasn't always this easy. You've got every name called, everything done. But no matter what, I've always been like a rhino. And no matter what's in my way, I just keep moving forward, no matter what. I've got Crohn's disease. I'm 45 years old. I've had it since I've been 17 years old. I've been in the hospital multiple times. My doctors want to do surgery on me and I keep telling them beat it. But with that being the case, guys, I have all of the excuses in the world not to be where I am. Right. But those are all of the excuses that I've used to fuel me to get to where I am and where I'm going.
Yeah.
And so therefore, I will promise you, as much as I love to say it, I am nothing special. Anything that I do, you can do just the same, if not better, by just putting in the same kind of time and resources and learning and being a student of the game. So the gift really is just sharing what we've learned with you guys. And that's truly what warms our hearts. So that's why we come here live every Tuesday to talk about this stuff, is because, if we could inspire some of you guys, like we had some great people inspire us and kind of give us that right light, it's a gift. And if we could give anybody the same gift that we have, I feel blessed. So.
And we are trying our very hardest. If you are reaching out, we are working on our calendar. We're going from New York to Florida. So please be patient as we are getting our calls in here. We are excited to chat with every single one of you who are trying to book a call. I just wanted to throw that out there because we are excited to talk to everybody. So thank you. If you have questions on the in-betweens, shoot us an email. We'll put this up onto YouTube. If you have a moment, subscribe there. You can comment if you're rewatching this, and you have any questions, we'd love to chat.
All of the podcast platforms, we're on there, guys. Creative Finance Playbook, all the podcasts, if you want to listen live there. Obviously, we love you guys coming live here. Once again, do not forget, in 2 weeks, we have a legend coming into house. So not only you're going to get just Jenn and myself, we're bringing in some amazing guests, guys, where you're going to be able to ask some questions live to them. And I will tell you what, it was life-changing to me what Ron taught me. And what I remember the first time I got on a Zoom with him, I was so giddy. To me, that was like Mount Rushmore. Me getting to meet somebody on Mount Rushmore. And as far as if you're a real estate investor, he is on there, guys. So the fact that we're going to have him live here in 2 weeks, I am so excited.
Absolutely. So we'll see you guys, I think, next week. We're trying to figure that out. Hopefully we're
going to be traveling next Tuesday. So we are going to figure out if we're going to be here, or we might bring in a special guest too. We're working on the details right now. We will keep you posted. So much thanks for you guys to tune in this week. Can we give Jenn a happy birthday, please? Give her a little clap. Happy birthday.
Excited for a nice little family dinner tonight.
Right. So I got me a 25-year-old.
All right, guys, we'll see you later. And thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Have a great week.